My name is Diana Lopez, and this is Medusa's Awakening Podcast. Trigger warning. This episode might address sensitive subjects that may be distressing for some listeners. Topics discussed include violence, sexual violence, childhood abuse, mental health issues, and substance abuse. Please be mindful of your own well-being while listening. If you find these topics triggering or difficult, seek support from a mental health professional or a trusted individual. We thank you for listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Medusa's Awakening Podcast. Tonight we are recording from U.S. Karate Boxing Gym here in Hayward, California. The owner, Grandmaster, and Coach Joe Olivares has welcomed us into his gym to record. And so I have here amateur boxer Arlo Hernandez, who has agreed to do this interview with me. Welcome, Arlo.
Thank you for having me.
So today we are going to talk about some heavy stuff, and I just kind of want to prepare the audience so that if you feel that you need to take a break at any point in time, or if things start to get too heavy, please make sure that you are taking care of yourself, recognizing if you're starting to feel triggered and you may want to stop the podcast or come back to it at a later time. But what we are wanting to talk about, what I've been wanting to talk about, especially on this podcast, is the need for men healing and what that looks like. And so Arlo has agreed to come on here and talk about, his healing path, what led to it, things like that. So Arlo, why don't you catch us up? Let us know, a little bit about yourself, family background, things like that.
So obviously my name is Arlo Hernandez. Um, a little bit about myself is like I've always been active as a kid, so I always enjoyed outdoors. I always like to be outside. Outside. I've never been an inside type of kid because I always like to play soccer with my friends outside or go running with my friends or be outside in general in that aspect. And I've always been active.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always really enjoyed because I never liked being inside. I play video games here and there, but overall is I feel like being outside is my true calling.
Nice.
And a little bit of my family is I am mixed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Hispanic on my mom's side and Italian.
Oh, okay.
And on my dad's side, he is the Jalisco.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
My mom is 5 feet,
Yeah.
and my dad is 6'8".
Oh,
So
okay.
I
She went for
think,
a tall one.
yeah, so I think they kind of even me out
Yeah,
a
there you
little
go.
bit.
Even though you feel like you're always like 7 feet tall. I don't know why that is, but
I think
it
that's
seems
just
like
because you're short.
oh, that could be it.
Yes. So that's just a little bit about myself. And as well as I've done martial arts for 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Wow, that's
yes.
a really long time.
A black belt. And also I
Nice.
have been doing boxing around 5 years.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. And you have some fights coming up. So
correct.
you were in the gym today training, doing what you need to do to prepare mentally and physically for those fights, right?
Correct.
Nice.
Yes.
So what would you say got you into the mixed martial arts, the boxing? Like what kind of led you to that?
Most of my family, my uncle, I have some relatives from Georgia. They've been doing martial arts for a very long time. So
Mhm.
I wanted to, I guess, a way to connect with them that had some way, I had somewhat to talk to them about the martial arts. So that's what really got me into martial arts.
Oh, okay.
And I just did that for a very long time, like I said, 8 years, and I've learned a lot. And what martial arts has taught me is basically discipline. You have to have commitment and self-respect,
Yeah.
just for yourself.
Mhm.
So that's what it has really taught me.
Mhm.
And then obviously I've moved away from that during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
But during my martial arts career, I was still doing boxing within those 8 years
Mhm.
with my uncle,
Oh, okay.
because my uncle used to train with Joe Olivares.
Oh, got it. Oh, that's the connection.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So,
Nice.
and then what got me into boxing is because of my uncle. And his dream was to go pro, but unfortunately, due to some circumstances, he wasn't able to go pro.
Mhm.
So I wanted to somewhat do that for him, but then I start eventually along the line, I wanted to do it for myself.
That's so cool. That's nice that that transferred for you.
And then the reason why I want to go pro now is because I don't want cauliflower ears as a UFC fighter.
Right.
You see lots of UFC fighters having
Yeah.
cauliflower ears, and that
You're like, "That's not it.
I don't like
That's
the
not your
ears.
thing." Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have.
You like the way your ears look?
Yes, I don't want that. I don't want deformed cauliflower ears. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons. That's the funny reason why I don't want to do USC.
Yeah.
And then I just felt like I was always better with my hands.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. I mean, that's
Mhm.
do you think like with when you struggle mentally, tell us about that. Like how does the fighting and the martial arts, like how does that help you when you're struggling?
Um, how it helps me is basically self-control.
Mm,
And what I mean by self-control is really digging down to the bone and really understanding yourself.
yeah,
And then, but with men's mental health is basically for us, it hits a little bit more harder because as men, we're always taught to not open up, that we are the men, that we don't show us breaking down, that we're a rock no matter what is thrown at us.
right.
So it's hard, but when I feel like when you're doing some type of martial arts
Mhm.
or boxing or some type of combat sport, I think we have to get out of that mental state, because once we start training or doing competitions or having a fight coming up, it can really affect us in a lot of ways, and it can put us in danger.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's true.
it teaches us to be more mentally strong and learn how to depart from both whatever you're going through in your head, and then you have a fight coming up, so you have to separate the two
Mhm.
and really focus on one thing.
Yeah, right. Um, Tell us a little bit more about the healing journey. You said you had started your healing journey probably about like a
A year
year
ago.
ago or something
Yes.
like that.
So what happened to me, as I was sexually assaulted when I was 6.
Okay.
And it was seven different occasions.
Okay.
And that's something that took a big chunk of me.
Yeah.
How to process at the time. As a kid, I was always like lying to my mother at the time. I was saying nonsense. So it's like, why would they believe me if I had been caught on so many different lies?
Mm,
And why would she believe me? And if they had to take a chance, if it was not true, guess how would that make them look?
right.
Because then they had to go to the school and accuse a teacher of doing something. And what if they're wrong? So I just kept it inside.
Do you think that was a train of thought for you at the age of 6, or was it I mean, obviously there's that would put a lot of kids in fear,
Mhm.
right? And like you can't, like you said, have trouble processing it. So do you think that was there fear instilled in you from the predator, or was it more something like you just thought nobody's going to believe me?
It was a mixture of both, that
Okay.
no one was going to believe me. And it was fear because I didn't want that chance of, if it going to court and me have to see him,
Face him again.
face him. And then it's just that fear that even if I were to go to court, is to see him, I wouldn't be able to speak. even though I have like, even though if there was officers are still around, I have my parents,
Sure.
I still wouldn't feel safe because obviously what he's done to me,
Yeah.
and he took a big chunk of me away.
Right. Um, so how do you think that if you fast forward to your teen years, how do you think that that kind of affected your growth? Like, just in terms of, you know, relationships with girls, or just even relationships with other teachers and, you know, your friends. Do you think that you struggled?
I sure definitely did struggle. I did not let a teacher get too close to me. If not, I would snap or I would be in self-defense mode already.
Mm.
And it did affect a lot of my friendships, and it did affect some past relationships I had in the past
Mhm.
because no one understood what I was going through. And so, with that being said, is yes, it had a lot to do with my uh, basically a big chunk of my life growing up because then I got into fights
Mhm.
because I was so triggered. I had this anger
Mhm.
for so many years and I didn't know how to control it. One minute I was happy and then one minute I'm mad. And then it's like if another kid looked at me the wrong way, I get triggered.
Mm.
I try to start a fight. I've been suspended and expelled from I've been expelled from two different schools
Mhm.
because of me fighting, and I've been suspended like over like 10 times.
Wow. And the whole time it's kind of like as a parent, you're just going, damn, what's going on with my kid? Why is he why you know, why is he so out of control?
Yeah,
But in the back of your head, you're like, you have this sitting here.
correct.
And so when you're getting upset and getting mad during that time period, could you push it? Could you like point it back to that? Did you have that awareness in you where you were just like, I know it's from this and it's from the fact that I can't really express it or tell anybody?
Yes, so like I said, is basically there was my mom was always saying what's getting into you, why are you acting a certain way? And I want to tell her, but at the same time, at that time when I was still a teenager, is I couldn't tell her because then it'll break a big chunk of her. It's basically I know in the back of my head, if I told her when I was still that young, is basically she failed as a mother.
Mm,
She was like, I just failed to protect my son.
right.
And uh, I feel like for any mother, that would
Yeah.
destroy you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. I feel like we always, right, take the blame, the shame, um the whole thing, even though the blame and the shame
correct,
belongs to the perpetrator. It doesn't
correct.
belong to you. It
Mhm.
doesn't belong to your family or your
Yes,
mom or your dad. But I know in the moment it can seem like exactly what you just said. I failed to protect my child.
correct. And then with that is I did have a brother at the time.
Okay.
He was uh he was 3 years older than me.
Mhm.
And and you know he didn't know that what happened to me. I just hid it from everybody, and me and my brother were super close.
Mhm.
And then what happened is one day, I guess I just, like I said, had one of my episodes where I got mad and then I got in a fight with the wrong person.
Mhm.
And then he basically told Big Brother, and Big Brother waited for me after school when I was walking. My brother at the time came to get me because he already excelled in his classes. And when I say a nerd, I don't mean it in a
Mhm.
bad way. I mean it in a really good way.
He was just really book smart.
He was the smartest person I knew.
Wow.
He basically graduated when he was a junior in high school.
That's impressive.
It is. And when he was a junior, he only had 4 classes to take.
Mm.
And he was already doing college courses.
Wow.
He wanted to cure cancer. He wanted to cure breast cancer, brain cancer, and cervical cancer
Wow.
because one of his best friends' moms passed away from cervical cancer.
Mhm.
So that's what he wanted to do. and he got a scholarship to go to UC Berkeley, MIT, and I believe uh Arizona State,
Wow.
and another one I'm forgetting, but he did get to meet the president at the time.
Mhm.
He took a tour at the CDC, disease control. He got to meet the CEO over
Mhm.
there. He was by far exceeding everyone's expectations by far. And then, like I said, one day he just came to come get me because he was done with his courses at the time. Basically, I was a freshman, he was a junior, basically done.
Mhm.
And I got in a fight with the wrong person. He basically told his big brother
Mhm.
because he lost the fight. And I guess it was just a pride thing
Of course.
where he wanted to get revenge somehow. He called his big brother. I was my brother came and picked me up, and we looked exactly almost alike.
Mhm.
And so we were wearing almost the same uh clothes. Like he was wearing a white shirt, I was wearing a white shirt. He was wearing like some gray jeans. I was wearing kind of charcoal jeans and then like black shoes.
Mhm.
We were like you couldn't tell us apart from afar. But once you start getting close, then you can see the difference.
Mhm.
And then so I just remember that the big brother got out the car and he pulled out a gun and he thought it was me. My brother was in the front. I was in the back walking with my girlfriend at the time.
Mhm.
He was walking with his girlfriend at the time, and he shot me thinking it was me.
Wow.
Yes.
And ultimately, did he wind up passing from
Yeah, he
that?
got shot in the head. I remember doing almost 3 months in juvie because I guess it was somewhat related to gang crime. And
Mhm.
like I said, I did 3 months in juvie and had his blood all over me. And I was already going through my depression state,
Right.
and now losing someone very close to me even triggered even more.
Right. That's a lot.
Yes.
It's like a heavy load to put
Mhm.
onto you because, I mean, I don't know if at the time what you were thinking, but oftentimes, especially when we lose somebody close, it's like, what could I have done different?
Correct.
Like you go through so many levels of what ifs and I wish I would have, the whole woulda, coulda, shoulda
Yes.
scenario. Um, and this kind of brings back to also the fact that this incredibly horrible thing happened to you right in front of your face, knowing that it was meant for you, but instead of it just pisses me off that the fact that they want to go and instead of helping you, right, they incarcerate you and
Yes.
and then they what just kind of okay bye,
Yeah.
like there's no like okay well this kid just went through something. I mean you just so you were how old at the time when this happened?
I was 16.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
Yeah.
and so coming out of that, like, or what did that look like for you when you got let out of juvenile hall?
When I got let go, obviously I still had um my depression from what happened when I was sexually assaulted,
Hmm.
and then losing my brother at this like when I was 16.
Yeah.
So my life spiraled down. So I started hanging with the wrong crowd. I started drinking. I started doing drugs. I was still getting into fights, and and then I think it hit me in junior year where I basically almost OD'd on
Yeah.
drugs.
Okay.
And because I was mixing, I think ecstasy, cocaine at the time,
Yeah.
and then along with other stuff, and then with drinking as well, didn't really help it. It just
Right.
made it more worse.
Hmm.
And then so with that is my life spiraled down. I didn't really care about my life at the time, and I just gave up. And then from there is when that happened, I almost OD'd. I woke up in the hospital.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I woke up in a hospital, but that time I was passed out, I saw my brother. He told me, "You have to change your life around." And I thought I was dead.
Oh,
Literally, I thought I
yeah,
was dead because like the theory is like when you pass away, it's like your loved ones come and greet you.
right.
I thought I was literally dead. I was like, "What?" And then he was like, "No, you have to change your life around. This is not you. You are meant for great things."
Oh,
And so as
what
soon
an
as he's,
incredible gift.
and then I snapped out of it. I just woke up and then I was like panicking. And then, but all I remember is I'm in the hospital bed. And then when I'm looking around, it's like my mom, my uncle, uh, my best friend at the time. And then I had like all my loved ones at the time.
Mhm.
And they're all looking at me and I'm freaking out
Yeah.
because I thought I literally died.
The idea of waking up in the hospital room and then facing your family, knowing that you had just seen your brother, did you say anything? Were you like, I just saw him?
I think I was quiet for 3 days. I didn't say a word.
Wow.
I was still in shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, I was just the best way I can describe it is I was in shock.
Yeah.
I couldn't say anything. Everyone was telling me, "Are you okay?" I didn't say a word. Everyone thought I lost my voice for a second until I felt comfortable enough to, I guess, comfortable enough to start talking again.
What was it that you think caused that kind of that stoppage of using your voice and then you feeling comfortable enough? Was it just because you had to kind of process everything?
I guess I had to process everything as like you know, along with me having what happened to me as a kid,
Right.
and then losing my brother, and then just trying to gather everything into one and accept what happened at the part accept part of what happened. So and then from there I started like changing my life around a little bit.
Mhm.
So I still didn't go to therapy. I still didn't tell no one what happened to me because of course that's a lot to untangle and it's a lot of load for someone else to know that about you.
Mhm. Do you think that also too, it sounded like, even from the beginning, you were protecting your mom. A lot of times we do that, we have so much stuff built up inside of us, but and we want to be able to talk to somebody who's safe.
Yes.
But we also want to be able to talk to somebody who
Mhm.
we know is not going to take that and then fall to pieces, because
Correct.
then what does that do for us,
Correct.
even though it's not anybody's fault. I mean, we're all just humans trying to get it together, trying
Yes.
to figure life out here. And you know as a parent, you would hope that we could be that strong force that no matter what happens, you can come to us. And we always say that. Um, but yes, they're internally, we're dying inside. We're ready to like break down. But having that sense of being able to even speak to somebody that could just hold that strong will in front of you, like everything is going to be okay, is so important. But at the same time, like it's not, like I said, it's not anybody's fault. We're trying to manage,
Yes.
and feelings are heavy, especially for parents with their kids. I mean, for the ones of us, those of us who are the protectors of our children,
Yes.
because I say that because there are plenty of parents who
Correct.
don't. They just don't have that. But so fast forward a little bit, when you finally just kind of let people know, or how did you go about doing that? What was the thing that you said, I think today is the day. I think now is the time that I speak my truth.
Um, I think it didn't happen until I was 24, I believe.
Wow, that's a really long time.
It is. Like I said, is I didn't want to tell no one until I felt comfortable enough where I know you could take all this information
Mhm.
out and you can take it all in and not use anything what I say as for weakness so I can sense it.
Right.
as well as being raised by a single mother. So I know how it is. I know how a woman thinks because I was raised by a woman who
Mhm.
was then it all by herself. She didn't want no assistance from nobody. So I know when a woman or a man can take all this information. Um, but it didn't really happen until I had my best friend at the time.
Mm.
I think I was 18 when I first told him. And my best friend at the time, and then my girl who was a best friend at the time,
Mhm.
because what happened is they were sexually assaulted by the same person.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. So these are people that you knew during that time period you just
correct.
kind of grew up with, and like,
Yes.
who was the first one to even say anything, or like, how did you guys make that connection between you?
Uh, um, One day I was at his house and I saw him crying.
Oh,
And I asked him like, why you what was is everything okay? And he would basically, I guess he just couldn't take it anymore, where he just told me everything what happened
oh,
with the person who sexually assaulted him.
mhm.
And he told me everything, and I basically told him my whole story too, that it was him as well, the same person. And so I guess we really formed a very strong connection,
Right.
and we had each other's back where we felt safe enough to tell each other everything.
Mhm.
And as men or boys at the time, it's very hard to let someone in, especially another male,
Right,
basically.
because you come across that thinking of you're going to be judged for all of that, and like, what's wrong with you? What did
Correct,
you do? So, like, because he's equipped at that age
correct,
to handle something like that,
correct.
unless you've gone through healing. But you know, you totally hit on a key point as well. As women, we need men to start healing,
Mhm.
and oftentimes men, we are told or kind of taught that for boys and girls, like, we see this, like, men are supposed to be strong men, like, you could take anything on, you can handle anything, like, you shouldn't have emotions, like, crying,
Yes,
or and so then when that having that as like the teaching, then we see men get upset and mad, and we go, what's their problem? Why
yeah,
are they so,
mhm,
but it's because they don't have a avenue or any kind of way to feel safe enough to, let go of their emotions, to health, in a healthy way.
yeah,
um you know Oftentimes when we see men cry, it's like that stigma, and I'm thinking that nowadays we're trying to slowly move away from that stigma, and giving the chance for men to be able to be vulnerable,
yeah,
be able to not have to have a day where they just don't have it, and not judge them for it, or
correct.
not make them feel any less than a man that they are. um so that is incredible that that moment happened for
Yeah.
both of you, because that was important not only for you to have, but for him to have as well. And then you just mentioned there was somebody else.
And then there was my best friend who was a girl at the time. Her name was Angela, who was actually molested by the same person as well. All three of us,
Mm.
all three of us formed, like I said, a very strong connection where it was unbreakable. We could tell each other anything without feeling vulnerable. They understood, we understood one another. But the thing is, they're not here with us no more. They committed suicide
I'm sorry to
because
hear that. Yeah.
it's a lot. You can talk about it all you want, but if you don't really accept for what happened
Mhm.
and come into somewhat of a peace with it
Mhm.
and stop blaming yourself for it, it's always going to haunt you.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, my two best friends are no longer here because they committed suicide because they couldn't. It was just too much.
Yeah.
Putting a fake smile every single day,
It's hard.
knowing knowing that they can't a piece of them was taken away, a piece of their dignity, a piece of their soul, a piece of hope, and everything was just stripped away from them. And so I feel like the most broken people have the biggest smiles and the biggest hearts. But to everybody else, it's like they don't see the fake smile. They don't see that. They see that, oh, they're good, they're okay.
Yeah.
Just because we're laughing or we're smiling or we're having a nice conversation, that doesn't indicate that we're okay.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see a bunch of these comedians ODing all the time, right? And they're
Yeah.
probably supposed to be some of the funniest people on
Yeah.
this planet. And like they're entertaining and
Yeah.
do all that stuff, but behind them they carry some very dark and deep shit. Like
Correct.
it's just how it is.
Mhm.
Um when you look back at that point in time in your life, is do you think there was something specific that might have been able to help you, I don't know, come out sooner? Um, what do you think there should have been in place for that? If there was something at school that would have been good to have, or
I,
something like that.
I feel that s- school wouldn't been the answer because I was still so triggered by what happened, so I didn't trust any of the school staff. I
Makes
didn't want
sense.
them getting close to me. If they were too close to me, I'd back away.
Mhm.
Um, I I feel like for every single individual, it just takes certain time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just it takes certain time and they go through their own processes of trying to heal. And I believe, in my opinion, that you know, you will never be healed from this. It's just you just one day you just come to acceptance
Right.
and stop blaming yourself for everything that happened. Because to me is I blame myself because I let that happen.
Mhm.
Because that, like I said, it took a big chunk of me, like the soul, my hope, faith, it took everything away from me, where I started blaming myself for everything. Past relationships, friendships, I don't communicate or I don't talk to get along with certain families is because I started blaming myself for every little small thing that was going wrong in my life.
Mhm.
I'm the one who blamed myself because of that.
Yeah.
And then I lost my brother. And then I lost my two best friends who I tried to talk to them every single day. I tried to be there for them as much as I could. Um, but I feel like I blame myself because I couldn't stop them from doing that.
Wow. Yeah. And how old were you guys when that happened? When they ultimately.
Uh, Decided to finally rest.
Mhm.
Uh, 19, both of them,
Oh,
and it was literally 2 months apart from each other.
that's a lot to take on.
Yes,
And how did you deal with that?
I I tried to keep my mind distracted.
Mm.
Um, Everyone was telling me whenever I went places, they were like, "Oh, you seem really happy," and I had to lie. I was like, "I'm okay.
Mhm.
I'm fine." When I know I'm not okay and I'm not fine, but I just have to have that fake smile and let everyone know that they think I'm fine. It's just, you know, that's just one way I just dealt with it.
Yeah.
And then once it's behind closed doors, I like go to my bed and put my pillow to my face and I like yell as hard as I can because I don't want no one to see that weak
Mm.
side of me. It's just that stigma, like you said, is like men are supposed to be this dominant, superior
Mm.
male that we don't show any emotions, that we don't break through any circumstances, but we're all human.
Right. Right. And that's taught at the father and the son thing, and the mom, it's like,
Right.
no, you stop crying.
Yeah.
Like, it's a don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. You're a big boy, like
Yes.
that whole thing. And it's just like, these are kids, they're supposed to cry.
Yeah.
They because ultimately, like, they're young with all these emotions that nobody's teaching them how to handle it other than just say don't cry. um so then let's fast forward to when you ultimately did decide, like, to say something. Like, Was there something specific that day, or did you kind of already have it in mind? Like, today's the day I speak my truth.
Uh, I told one of my previous partners first.
Mhm.
She was very supportive.
Oh, nice.
She did not feel sorry for what happened to me because there's nothing that she could have done.
Mhm.
She just had a lot of empathy for me, and she showed kindness
Yeah.
and comfort. And I am grateful for that.
Yeah.
She was able to take all that and try to comfort me in the best possible ways,
Mhm.
even on my most silent days where I did not want to talk. She understood already, and I'm grateful for those days because there's days where I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
get
want
it.
to see anybody.
Yeah.
I just want to stay clearly in my house, in my room, and I don't want to come out for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And she took the time to come and comfort me and making sure I was still okay. She brought me food. She did everything that she could
Wow.
to show that I don't have to do this alone.
Mhm.
And to me, that's the most best feeling that I could have had at that time because she showed me that I don't have to do everything alone.
That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yes.
I'm glad that you had somebody like that in your life, because so often people don't, they just
Mm,
don't. And
yes.
they do exactly what you're doing. Is just internalize, you keep away from people, and there's moments of
Yeah.
sunshine, so to speak, when you're just like, okay, I can go out and hang out with
Yes.
some friends and fake it for,
Correct.
an hour or two or
And I
whatever.
believe I told her when I was 24. So that's when I was 24. I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's when I told her, or 23. Around like 23 or 24.
Mhm.
And then when I finally told my mom, I believe I was 26
Oh,
when I finally apologized. Yeah, 26
mhm.
when I told her. And when I told her, I felt like she broke.
Wow. Yeah.
She failed. She didn't have to say anything. I just saw her immediately her eyes water up,
Mhm.
her eyes got red, and she started sobbing
Yeah.
because she felt like she failed to protect me.
And I bet you she had this epiphany, like, no wonder.
And then
Yeah.
and then it all made sense to her.
Mhm.
Why I was acting a certain way, why I was getting into fights, why there were sometimes I was lashing out. And then going back,
Mhm.
backtracking is when I did get assaulted multiple times, I did not speak for a year.
Oh,
I
interesting.
was quiet.
So, kind of right after that event happened.
When after I believe is the the fifth time that it happened,
Mhm.
I was quiet.
Mm.
I did not talk for a year. I was I don't know how to say it. I was just quiet
Yeah.
for a complete year.
Yeah.
And like I said, through all till that time till now, I had multiple arguments with my mom, and I feel our relationship is way more stronger with my mom and I,
Mhm.
is because there was one time we got into a huge fight, but it's not on purpose. It's just I didn't know how to handle all my emotions.
Yeah.
And it was when I was in high school.
Mhm.
And so I didn't know how to handle my emotions or comprehend my emotions at that time because it was spiraling all over because I lost a part of me,
Mhm.
a part of my soul. I lost my brother, and I just didn't know how to get everything together. So we got into a huge argument where we didn't speak for a year.
Oh, wow. Mhm.
And just imagine just walking past each other without saying a word.
Yeah. Yeah.
It to to certain people it would be awkward, but I didn't feel anything at the time. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can walk past you and I didn't feel anything. And that's even my own mother.
Right.
And then we came and sat down, talked to each other, like, okay, this needs to stop.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Mhm.
And then now me and my mom have a fantastic uh uh mother and son relationship,
That's amazing.
and I feel we have an unbreakable bond now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible to be able to come out the other side of this. Um, at any point in time in your life, but it's especially, you're going, I don't know, you're getting old now. You're almost 30, right?
I'm 20. I just turned 28. I still got
All
two
right,
years.
sorry, you're a
I got
young
two
buck. My
years.
bad. But I mean, just to say all this and then to see where you're at now, it's still a very young age where I mean, I didn't start my healing journey until like 6 years ago.
I
I'm
barely,
52, everybody.
I
I'm so behind the ball here.
I barely started mine a year ago.
But I mean, I guess this is the whole point is the starting part
Correct.
and the launching of,
Mhm.
I mean, it's not easy to get on that path to healing. And then it's not easy to stay on it and ride out the waves and stuff. Like there's times where I just absolutely want to give up and
Yeah.
step off and just be like, you know what? I could just go to the bar and just drink this all
Yeah.
away tomorrow. And feel like shit, of course. But, at the end of the day, you're,
Because there's a saying is doing the right thing
Mhm.
takes time and process, while doing the wrong things is way more easier.
Of course. Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So do you want to talk about like a little bit about how your healing journey, like how that started? Like what did you look for? Like was there something in mind that you had in mind, or you just kind of like, I don't know where to start, so I don't know what to do from
I
here?
believe my personal experience, you don't know where to really start.
Hmm.
Is basically, I feel like the healing process is telling someone who is very close to you that this is what you went through, so they understand. For instance, it was my mother, because she has to know what's going on with me.
Right.
And so her game plan is she got me to therapy.
Nice.
And going to therapy is scary, because now you're talking to a complete stranger who doesn't know you and you don't know them. And then basically, if you see them taking notes on their notebook or whatever, and then they're just like, I'm like, what are you writing?
Yeah. It
Yeah,
feels overwhelming.
yeah, yes. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. Because I'm telling you, we didn't go right into it. It's like a little intro of, like, the first two sessions was like getting to know each other. It's like, okay, this is what I do. Tell me about yourself so I can get to know you better. And then by the third session, it's like, oh, we start going a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper into why you're depressed.
Mhm.
And that way they can know you more on a deeper level.
Mhm. Did you ever sometimes you hear a lot of times where people don't necessarily connect with the person, that they had picked out, a therapist or whatever. Did you find that that was hard for you to
Uh,
connect with her or
Um,
him?
I feel like I'm still kind of skeptical,
Okay.
because I feel, to me, is I need to have a connection with that person who
Mhm.
I'm telling, because if I don't have that connection, then I'm still hesitant to tell you certain parts of my life, regardless if you're a therapist or not. So for
Right.
me is I have Coach Joe, who he knows my story,
Mhm.
and I have a good connection with him, and I trust him to tell him my whole life,
Mhm.
and he would not judge, and then he would just not feel sorry for me, but he would have empathy for what happened to me, because my life would have been so much different if that never happened to me.
Right. And Coach Joe is really in it, like he just doesn't just do, like, for us it's boxing, right? Like it's not just about the boxing. Like he actually will sit and go, what's going on with you today?
Yes.
Like it's almost like he
Mhm.
has this radar
Yes.
and he's like, what's wrong? Come sit in here,
Yeah.
and which I totally appreciate. But going into Coach's story, like he's just like that for
Yes.
in this community. and
Correct.
and he's always been like that, especially when it comes to children, like just somebody that is safe that you can go to.
Correct.
And I think that a lot of times now that we kind of are seeing the over overwhelming, alarming numbers of kids who are assaulted and at such a young age, or even just going through their teenage years as well. um it is so important that people have to remember to be a safe person out there in the community
Correct.
for other kids, because you don't know what is happening next door. You don't know what is happening in your kids' classrooms with
Correct.
their friends or somebody else. And oftentimes, even if the kids sense that,
Correct.
if you're safe or not, they sense that if they can come to you. And if we just, like I said, with just the overwhelming numbers that have come, that are being shown in today's world, of how bad it is out there. And people often thinks it just happens to girls, and so boys often get left out of the healing mix. There's, yes, there's resources, but we're already looking at how bad, um how there's not enough resources now just for women and girls, but there's even worse, less resources for boys and men.
Mhm.
And not to say, okay, well, take away from the women so we can get them in. I'm saying we need more for both. Like it just, there needs to be a better way. There
Yes.
has to be. I mean, these numbers are outrageous, and we're not only seeing that, but we're also seeing the effects of child predators rising, and what that looks like. I mean, as child predators as young as 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, I mean, they're doing the same thing because nobody's helping them through,
Yep.
identifying,
Correct.
things that are going on with them mentally. And, a lot of times the abuse happens in the home
Correct.
or with somebody safe, like a teacher.
Yeah.
So with all of that said, like, is there any kind of advice you would like to give, maybe, um anybody who is an adult now that never kind of dealt with this in their past, and maybe they kind of feeling like they're teetering a little bit and might need to, but they just don't know what to do?
Like I said, is all it affects everybody differently.
Mhm.
Everybody has their own way of healing, healing, or trying to seek help. Because I feel like I can give all the advice that I
Right.
can, but it's up to them if they want to take it and use it to try to seek help. My advice is really feel comfortable with the person that you're sharing with. Um, and so they can actually get the help you deserve
Mhm.
and really understand you. And it doesn't even have to be a therapist. Just talk to someone who makes you feel safe.
Yeah.
I think that's what we all want. What I wanted is I wish I could have talked to someone who made me feel safe, and I didn't have no one at the time until more later in life when I was 18.
Mhm.
And then, but again, I lost two of my best friends.
Mhm.
But for me, is my advice is talk to someone that makes you feel safe, makes you feel whole, doesn't make you feel broken or doesn't look at you in any other way.
Mhm.
It still sees you for you.
And this is advice too for people who are being met with somebody in their life that wants to tell them and explain that to them, and let them know their truth. Is this is how you can be that safe person, is exactly what you said. You have to remember that when the person's coming to you, they are in a state of the down, the depressed. They're probably feeling some guilt. They're probably feeling some shame. And it's a lot for somebody to be able to be vulnerable and open up to you. So in order to be that safe person, you have to kind of step aside a little bit from those feelings of, or from that instinct of wanting to react in, like you said, like feeling like you want to like
Yeah.
cry and break and fall apart, because that's not what that person needs. And I think this is why we have therapists,
Yeah.
right? Because the minute you start making a therapist cry, you go, see, this is why I don't tell anybody,
Mhm.
because you kind of feel like nobody can handle
Correct.
your shit. And it's so important to remember that you as the person that is being told this information, you can always go somewhere later out of sight and cry for that person by yourself. You do not need to show them that the pain that they like, oh, I feel that pain too. That's how sorry I feel for you. I know it's almost like it's kind of like an automatic thing where you're just like, oh my gosh. And then the way you react when
Right.
somebody's telling you something, especially as rough and tough as that, um, really kind of sets the tone
Right.
and how this person is going to either continue to be talking to you and be open with you, or if this person is just going to completely shut down.
Right.
And I think it's just, knowing and figuring out, like, like I said, how to be that safe person and how to respond appropriately
Right.
um in that event. Because of course we want to like cry for that person. We want to, you know, I was taught when I first started healing that there's a difference between being sympathetic and being empathetic. Sympathetic means you want to immediately, you're on the phone with your best friend, something's going down with her boyfriend. You want to hang up the phone, get in your car, drive, pick up food, pick up alcohol and like go and be there for them, right? But that's not what they need necessarily. A healthier way would be to be more the empathetic and talk to them,
Correct.
be that safe person, and
Yes.
and be the sounding board, the strong, person that could just walk you through it.
Correct.
And I think that's super important. I got to commend you for everything that, because of everything you went through, in spite of it, you are here today to talk about this and share your story and work do the work and do the work of healing, because you love yourself so much to be able to do that for yourself.
I believe that I don't love myself completely. I'm in the process of loving myself.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, with that being said, is I'm still doing the work. I'm here living proof that it's not an easy journey.
Right.
It's gonna be very difficult. There's gonna be days where you want to give up.
Hmm.
There was days that I wanted to give up and I have almost succeeded,
Hmm.
but then I went back to the hospital
Yeah.
because there was one time where I tried to overdose again.
Hmm.
And because I just wanted to give up because I just wanted the noise. I wanted the pain. I just wanted everything to stop. And also with that, I wanted to stop. It's just in my back of my head, I was like, maybe the world will be a better place if I wasn't in it no more.
Right.
So, like I said, for that, I was like, I want everything just to stop. I want the hurt to stop. So
Mhm.
I did overdose a second time,
Wow. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
woke up in the hospital.
Hmm.
And my uncle was the one who brought me to the hospital.
Oh,
He
okay.
was literally what he told me is I believe he was going like 90
Oh.
in like the streets trying to get me with his emergency lights on, getting me to the hospital. And I woke up in the hospital.
Hmm.
And then when he saw me, what I remember when he told me is like, yeah, you were like on the floor with like blood all over the because I was like throwing up blood.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Uh, what did I take? I don't know. It was just whatever medication I could see in the counter.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Like I said, there's gonna be days where it's you want to give up,
Hmm.
you want everything to stop, the noise, the pain. But I'm living proof. Still, I still have my days where I relapse, but I'm trying to
Sure.
get back on track. And like I said, it's a very difficult journey for anyone who is going through this
Yeah.
because I said it affects everyone differently and everyone takes it differently and everybody has their own opinion about depression. Everybody has comforting advice and then there's negative advice.
Right. Yeah.
Some people I've heard on podcasts saying um oh it's a luxury to be depressed.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
rude.
you don't have time to be depressed.
Huh.
Like maybe you're going the wrong way around it.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's like for me is I didn't have that time to be depressed. I just kept pushing forward.
Hmm.
but still, like, it's like I worked out with being depressed. I was eating while depressed. I was with my friends while depressed. So I
Yeah.
didn't have that little time to like stop. It's just I just try to keep my mind busy, but still, it's like you need that time to stop and really deal with your emotions, because if you don't deal with your emotions, they just bottle up, and till you explode.
Right.
And that's what happened. Why I tried to commit suicide is because I bottled everything up and I exploded.
Mhm.
And then that's the consequences to it.
Yeah.
So like I said, there's good comments or opinions about depression and everything like that. And then you have the bad. So you have good advice and then you have bad advice
Yeah.
about depression, and people have their opinions about suicide. And then you have other opinions about suicide. There's always a good and a bad side.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, people think depression's a luxury, or depressed you shouldn't be depressed because you're still alive,
Mm.
or do you think how would your parents feel if you commit suicide?
Right.
Like those are negative
So
comments.
more guilt and shame on
Exactly.
top of the already guilt and shame that you're experiencing, and you're
Like I said,
like, I don't need that. Yeah.
exactly. So I'm like, when I hear those types of things, I'm like, you eh, maybe that works for you, but you don't have to
Right.
share that with the world because it affects everyone's differently. That's just more guilt that you're putting on top of that person, whoever's watching.
Right.
And then it's okay to be depressed. It's okay to be down. Just have someone who can comfort you, and you just have to take that leap of faith and
Mhm.
hope that person is gonna comfort you, because we all have that moment in life where we tell the wrong person.
Yeah.
And if you tell the wrong person, you would never hear from us again. It's like saying, "Oh, how was your day?" It was good, but they're really not good. They're just not gonna tell you what really
Right.
happened in their day.
I mean, because why would you tell somebody who's just going to, it's like somebody who constantly giving you bad advice, and you
Correct.
ask them for, like, you're not going to ask them for advice. You're just
Exactly.
like, I can do this on my own, it's fine,
Correct.
because you
So there's
don't
been
know.
moments where I didn't share my complete truth. It's
Mhm.
just like a little, like the tip of the iceberg
Yeah.
before I dive in into
Mm.
the whole iceberg that's under. And basically is I only told you once, and that's all I need to hear from you,
Right.
because I didn't like what you had to tell me. So if I told you this the little small little part of the iceberg,
Yeah.
what makes you think I would want you to know my whole life story?
Right.
So it's like, oh, how you doing? I'm okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just not gonna tell you what really happened to my day.
Right. Right. Or what you're thinking mentally,
Exactly.
and where you're at.
I only have you at a distance.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I'm in the part of my life where if I'm part of my life where I don't need and want anybody in my life who doesn't bring me joy.
Mhm.
If you're
Good
disrupting
for
my
you.
peace,
Yeah.
if you're disrupting my mental health,
Yeah.
then no matter how much I care for you or love you and how much you mean to me,
Mhm.
I will take you out of my life now.
Yeah.
Because despite how bad it's going to hurt me, but this is what I have to do to protect my own sanity, my own peace, and my own mental health, because I can't be putting my peace, my mental health uh, lower and making you a priority.
Right. Right. Especially because of everything that
Mhm.
you're coming out with, and
Correct.
going through, and like you said, you just started healing, so it's more important now to set those boundaries. And you know it's okay when people don't know how to deal with
Correct.
situations like this, because it's not easy to talk about one.
Correct.
And the ones who you know you wind up telling could possibly have gone through that themselves, who is not ready to admit that or face that, or they haven't gone through that and are just kind of, they just really don't know, like, what I could be saying to this person. To
Correct.
everybody just wants to think that there's like this keyword or key or something that they could say is just snap and it's just going to make you feel
Correct.
better, when oftentimes you just need to listen to the person,
Yes.
and
Correct.
without reacting or without
Correct.
trying to make their whole life so much better in just one phrase or one keyword or something like
Correct.
that. So yeah, like I said, I commend you for everything that you're doing to get back to you and
Mhm.
remembering who you are, um, before any of all this happened, because um, deep down inside there is that there is that Arlo that is meant for great things
Yes.
and is doing great things now, is figuring that out and is like saying, I no longer want to waste any more of my time here
Yes.
on this planet. I want to go ahead and switch that. And that's incredible.
Yeah.
Because like I said, dealing with and internalizing guilt, shame, um, it's a detriment.
Yes.
Guilt, shame, and fear are so lethal. Like to me, I feel like it's much more lethal than any of these drugs that are out there on the street,
Correct.
because what you do to damage your psyche and what you do to internalize and tell yourself like that negative head talk is so damaging,
Correct.
and it will take years to come out of that. So
Because there is a saying where it's a quote, but there's a saying,
mhm,
and I believe it goes like, "You are your worst critic."
yeah, yeah,
Because I said for people who are broken,
mhm,
damaged, um, it's basically like I said, we are our own worst critic, and
right.
we already think if you were to say like, "Oh, you suck," or all these negative things about me, I'm thinking worse things about
Oh,
myself
right.
already.
Yeah.
So whatever you're saying doesn't really matter because I'm already thinking, oh, I'm garbage, or I'm worthless,
Mhm.
or I mean nothing to nobody. I don't mean nothing to myself. Everybody around me or my loved ones, friends can do so much better if I wasn't in the picture.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking worse things
Right.
already.
Right.
And it's like I'm slowly trying to find the process that maybe they are they do love to have me around them, all
Right.
my friends, all my family. So it's like, but it's not an easy switch where I can just go from negative thinking to positive thinking.
Just like
It's
that.
exactly it's
It's
just
it takes time.
it's a day-to-day process. And
Yeah.
then once I do come into full acceptance of what happened to me as a kid,
Mhm.
what happened to my brother, my two best friends is not my fault, and I
Mhm.
accept for what that is.
Mhm.
um, I feel like I still wouldn't be healed. It's just gonna be a day-to-day process now.
Yeah. And I think the big key thing is to remember that forgiveness
Mhm.
plays a big role in it.
Correct.
And I'm not saying to you or to anybody else who had to survive through something like that, that, you have to forgive that person, because ultimately that forgiveness would be for you. It's
Correct.
not for them.
Correct.
And it's not to let them off the hook. It is to let you off the hook.
Correct.
And forgiveness of them, and then it would be forgiveness
Yeah.
of yourself
Correct.
for just thinking all the negative things, and
Correct.
and being that detriment to yourself, because it will allow you to give
Correct.
grace for yourself. And you know like I said, that forgiveness factor, especially to the other person, is, yes, they could have possibly went through the exact same thing you
Correct.
did, and so therefore they went and did it to somebody else,
Correct.
right? So that's the chain, right? That
Yep.
is the cycle that is never ending with a lot of survivors.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. Is forgiveness is not for the other person at all. It's basically for yourself to accept for what happened uh to accept what happened to whatever situation.
Mhm.
And it's not for them, it's for you because you did nothing wrong.
Right.
And so you can take that burden off your shoulders and move on with your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But forgiveness is not easy
It's
as well
not, it's not.
because you have to truly mean it.
Right.
And with every, you don't have to, you can't mean it with a little bit anger, hatred, or resentment towards that person. You have to fully mean it,
Mhm.
saying, and I forgive you, and just move on.
Right. Right. Yeah. And then also you have to look at the why, and not in a sense of like, in a very despair kind of sense, like, why did this happen to me? It's more of the what was, and you're still in that, what you're going to find out
Yep,
later in life, what this was building you up towards.
correct.
And that's going to be the beautiful part of where you come out on the other side, what is
Correct.
there for you. It's going to be amazing to watch you walk through that and see that on the other side, because you're doing a really great job.
I hope so. I'm doing the best I can every single day.
That's all you could
I
do.
still have my moments where I
Of
wake up
course.
down. I mean, if we're being honest, it's like I said, it's an everyday process. There's majority of the time is like I don't want to wake up.
Yeah.
I don't want to get out of bed. I just want to like stay
Yeah.
in bed and be sad.
Mhm.
But there's another quote that life doesn't stop for nobody.
Right.
Life is gonna continue
Yep.
regardless.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, is basically I have to keep catch up.
Mm.
So like I said, it's just basically life doesn't stop for nobody. You have to keep on going,
Right.
and then you just have to try your best every single day because tomorrow's never guaranteed.
Mhm. So what would you say is what empowers you then in those moments to be able to come to the gym, to be able to show up for yourself when you do these fights and continue on
Uh,
just living on a daily basis?
it's hard.
Mhm.
I'll tell you that it's very hard. There's days where I don't want to train.
Yeah.
Uh, but I have people in my life like Coach Joe Olivares. I have his son Caleb Olivares, who
Mhm.
is like a brother to me.
Mhm.
Joe is like a father figure to me,
Mhm.
and his wife is another mother
Mhm.
to me. So it's like they help me make me feel good.
That's amazing.
So there's no other way to put it. It's like even though Joe and Crystal don't know my full story, but
Mhm.
it's just their presence around me. It just makes me feel better.
Yeah.
And again, being able to teach the classes as well.
Mhm.
It's like, and then the kids ask you questions. I have two students, the little kids,
Mhm.
they like walk up to me like, oh, you're my favorite teacher and stuff
Oh,
like that. So it's like it's just the little things in life where it
yeah.
makes me feel good
Yeah.
that maybe I am meant to be here.
Yeah.
So it's just the little things in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the fact that you are a safe person for these kids
Yes.
too.
They
And
they just
you
come up
want to
to
be that for
yeah,
them.
they literally come up to me and run up to me and hug me
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
That's
Like I'm
awesome. Yeah.
teaching, like my back can be faced towards the door,
Mhm.
and they literally come and hug me from behind.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
it's like I said, it's the little things in life
Yeah.
that we tend to miss,
Mhm. Yeah.
but it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Little things make a big difference in life.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And you're doing, like I said, really incredible work. So thank you for coming on my podcast
Thank you
tonight
for
and
having
doing
me.
this. Thank you for listening to Medusa's Awakening podcast. Stay up to date on new episodes by following, liking, and subscribing to our pages. We are on Instagram at Medusas_awakening, on YouTube at Medusa's Awakening, and on TikTok at Awakening_Medusa_podcast.